Good evening. My name is Levi Aaron DiBassa, and today we're going to be talking about the downfall after the golden age of higher education. H.G. Wells once said that we must adapt or perish. Higher education has had to adapt because of many events, like the Great Awakening movement, the Civil War, and the Great Depression. But of those events, there are two that stand out. These events have helped higher education to grow, but have also negatively affected the purpose of higher education. The first is the GI Bill of Rights, and the second is the development of intercollegiate sports. To understand the effects of on higher education, we have to look at the background of both the GI Bill and intercollegiate sports. So post World War I, veterans' benefits were very bad. On returning from World War I, they were given only $60 allowance and a train ticket home. And as the Great Depression started, veterans were finding it hard to make a living. So the U.S. government created the World War Adjusted Act of 1924. This gave veterans a bonus based on the days they served. But many of these veterans would not see any of that money for the next 20 years. Because of this, many veterans became so upset that in 1932 they began something called bonus marches on Washington, D.C. They started to set up camp called Hoovervilles, and they began to have an altercation with the very army that they served for. So the government had a chance to redeem themselves after World War II. Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the GI Bill of Rights on June 22nd, 1944. The U.S. government needed time to retool factories because they focused on building tanks and weapons. Now they have to change those factories into factories that build cars and home appliances. They also wanted a chance to redeem themselves from the benefit acts for veterans in World War I. The GI Bill gave veterans a free year of school for 90 days of service, plus a free month of higher education for every month of active duty, at a cap of 48 months. The government paid the university $500 per veteran a year to take care of their tuition costs, any books, and other fees they may have. They also gave veterans who attended college a $50 a month stipend on top of that, and $75 for those who are married. By July 25th, 1956, over 7.8 million veterans were either in college or were in a trade school getting trained. Here's some background also on intercollegiate athletics. Athletics in higher education first focused more on campus recreation rather than intercollegiate competition. As competition between schools began to grow, questionable practices began to occur. So, because of these certain practices, in 1895, the Big Ten, one of the first collegiate conferences, was created to keep athletics in check. But in 1905, there were over 143 serious injuries and 18 deaths were caused by the football season that year. Theodore Roosevelt wanted to make a change. So, the National Collegiate Athletic Association was formed to keep athletic conferences in check and to keep players safe. From its formal development in the 20s to today, there are now over 347 Division I schools across the United States. So there are a lot of positives that the GI Bill and athletics give us. For the GI Bill, one of the first positives it forced universities to adapt to the rising tide of students and set the groundwork for the capacity of students today. An example is one of the public universities in Wisconsin. Wisconsin had over 9,000 students pre-GI Bill. But when the GI Bill hit, that number doubled to over 18,000 students because of double enrollment. That set the groundwork for present day enrollment, which is at 31,650 undergraduates in the 2020 fall semester. This phenomenon did not only affect public universities, but it also affected private universities as well. An example of this can be seen through Bethel Junior College and Seminary. Bethel Junior College was a 2-year university and a seminary. Because of the rising tide of students, they wanted to have a $200,000 expansion for more dorms, common spaces, and a library. But to financially take care of these things, they had to turn into a 4-year institution, as well as quadrupling their size of students. From 1944, they had approximately about 123 students, and that number quadrupled to over 400 students in 1946. Two other positives of the GI Bill is the accreditation process and the application process. The accreditation process is in which universities are evaluated every 10 years to see if they hit the educational standards set by the U.S. government. Accreditation was used to protect veterans from getting fake diplomas from diploma mills. Diploma mills could be just a mailroom sending out fake diplomas to veterans daily. So the United States government wanted to protect the veterans from getting these fake diplomas, as well as making sure that taxpayers' money was being used for the right purpose, educating veterans. The application process was also standardized and made during the post-GI Bill. Universities wanted to get students through their programs as quickly as possible. So the university started using standardized tests and background checks to see if students were qualified to be given classroom waivers or advanced placement in classes. They wanted to get students in those higher classes or waiver those classes so other students can take those seats. This process set the stage for modern day admissions through looking at students' SAT and ACT scores, as well as looking at what they did in high school and how prepared they can be for college, and seeing if they can either waive a class or put them in a higher class for them to get through college quickly. Lastly, the GI Bill helped to break the socioeconomic glass ceiling surrounding higher education. In 1941, only 1.25 million students were in higher education, but by the end of the 40s, the number doubled to 2.5 million because of the GI Bill. Higher education was considered a privilege given only to the rich or if they were in intellectual prodigy. But when veterans heard about this, they quickly ran and wanted to apply. So the GI Bill paved the way for Americans of all socioeconomic classes to have the opportunity to have a higher education. There are also some positives in athletics as well. Of the 7.1 million students in 2017, over 5.3 million students were considered heavy users or regular users of established campus recreational sports programs and facilities. Recreational athletics help students to develop both mentally and emotionally, and raises their sense of self higher. Studies also show that exercise will trigger positive feelings in your body similar to morphine. These feelings will help students be more at peace, and in turn it will boost certain areas of life such as their academics and social skills. Students will develop more life skills as well, like self-discipline, conflict management, and leadership. intercollegiate part of athletics helps students psychologically and socially develop. There is a idealism research by DuBose and Vanover called football chicken soup. This is when students are trying to find a place on campus where they can connect, a place where they can call home. Universities use sports as a key to help students connect with other students, alumni, and faculty, and all of them to connect under one identity and identify with the university and their society. An example of this can be seen through A&M and their traditions. One of their main traditions is called the Midnight Yell. Midnight Yell is essentially a pep rally for the game that's happening the following day. But this is where thousands of students come together with alumni and faculty members to cheer together for one thing, for their team to win the next day. So it helps students to socially feel at home and psychologically feel better by connecting with others and feeling at a place where they can be themselves and be, yes, I am home. There are a lot of positives that the GI Bill and athletics gives, but there's also many negatives. For the GI Bill, before World War II, the mindset of higher education, which is given by McIntyre, was there is a relationship between disciplines and the conception of these disciplines as contributing to a single shared experience to achieve for teachers and students alike a certain kind of understanding. There is a connection. McIntyre believed there is a connection between all of these disciplines. But because of the GI Bill and the meeting the needs of these veterans, these disciplines became more specialized and they only focused on their division. This mindset of higher education has also changed the mindset of higher education from seeking truth to idealism that college was a means to an end. Veterans saw the opportunity to go to college as a preparation for their careers, their specific specialization, that they are preparing for themselves to graduate and specialize in this field so they can use what they have learned to get money later, post-grad life. They didn't want their college careers to be launching them on an experiment with their own lives. They no longer wanted to go to school to seek knowledge. They wanted to go to school to get in and get out. Many universities saw this new wave of students and prepared to meet their needs and their ideals. Admissions requirements became more flexible, and they tried to fast-track students so they can get more students in and get them through faster. Universities started to offer more practical courses like engineering, science, and more majors for applied fields. This set the stage for present-day colleges to be a degree factory. Students just want to get their degree as quickly as possible and get out with minimal problems. Students wanted to focus on the minimal standards that they needed to reach, and when they reached them, they would stop digging, stop looking for truth, and move forward with their class. They got whatever they needed to get through this class, now they're going to move to the next one. They did whatever they had to do to get whatever grade, and then move forward. There's lots of negatives that happen in athletics as well. As the commercialization of athletics began to rise, universities began to focus on the shift from education and development of students to national recognition and school rank. Schools believe that a successful athletic program will gain their institution more prestige and in turn will lure more students to attend. A research done by DuBose and Vanover shows that there's very little correlation between universities' ranking and a successful athletic program. So, even though there's little correlation between them, why do universities still funnel millions of dollars every year into these programs? In 2008, the median of academic spending per student compared to athletic spending per athlete was $13,349 for a student to $84,446 for an athlete. In the academic year of 1985 to 1986, to the academic year 2009-2010, the average compensation of a full professor and president and a football coach increased for a professor 30%, for a president 90%, and for a football coach over 652%. And all in all, out of all the Division I programs today, only about 20 athletic programs nationwide consistently make a profit. All the rest are underwater. All the rest are losing money. They're not making a profit. So why do we still consistently put money into these universities? And where is this money coming from? Well, there are a lot of donations given by alumni and others, but a bulk of donations that DuBose and Vanover says come from student fees. Over $80 million in student fees and university subsidies are propping up athletic programs. Athletics is also affecting the admission of students into these institutions. Athletic scouting is being put out at the forefront, so much so that universities are admitting too many athletes and potentially denying admission to extraordinarily able foreign and minority students, as well as student prodigies. They'd rather have their school be raised up on the field. They'd rather have all the glory on the field rather than have the educational glory in the classroom. So what can we do to bring the focus back to seeking truth? The first step is to changing these ideals is to give faculty more involvement with the decisions at the university. Professors have the ability to combat these ideals of specialization, and students do the minimum mentality by having an intellectually safe environment so educational discourse can be had. Also, professors can connect what's being taught to aspects of life, faith, and other disciplines. Dr. Robert Sloan believes that a faculty member of an institution carries the intellectual freight. The faculty member carries the traditions of learning which they have received and seek to bring forward. Faculty members should also have a say in athletics as well. Over the years, there has been a lack of communication between administrators and faculty concerning intercollegiate athletics. Athletics suggests to faculty that athletics hold a privileged position in higher education institutions. Bringing faculty in to the fold can build the bridge between education and athletics. Faculty of the university are the key to helping higher education refocus on what's important. They can change the focus from I'm here to get in and get out of college. I'm here to focus on athletics. I'm here to focus on the mentality that we have here, which is want to get in and get out as quickly as possible. Now the mentality is we can seek truth, and faculty are the ones that are key in that for that to happen. These are my citations. Thank you for listening.